It's crazy to say that Christians shouldn't vote. It's crazy to think that it is antithetical to what God wants for us to vote. Crazy for Christians to not be involved. And for the most part, they are not involved. They don't get out and vote in the way that they should. And the church in America is asleep. It's asleep. That's what we saw in 2020. It's what we saw in 2021. Most of the American church bent the knee to government tyranny. They chose government as God as opposed to the one true God as God. The church is asleep. God did not give us the greatest nation on the face of this earth, a God fearing nation, less so now, but still based on Christian ethics and morals, a liberty loving nation, just so we could squander it. People always like to say, if America falls, the rest of the world has no hope. We are a beacon on the hill. That also applies to the church. The United States of America, yes, it's going in a direction that we as Christians don't like, but it is still a beacon. It is still facilitating the spread of the gospel and bringing people to Christ. If America falls to godless communists, we will have a harder time spreading the gospel. I understand that, Christians have been martyred. Christians currently are being martyred. I understand that we are supposed to sacrifice anything for Christ, but we're not supposed to try to become martyrs, okay? We're not supposed to seek out becoming martyrs needlessly for no reason. God gave us the precious gift of life. God gave us the precious gift of being an American. And He doesn't want us to sit back and squander that and wash our hands of it and just go to church on Sunday and then leave everything else to whoever else is going to be in charge, because that will be godless communists, okay? Evil men are voting. Evil men are possibly maneuvering elections, for lack of a better word, okay, on Instagram. Evil men are taking seats of power. That's not good for us. That's not good for God. In the end, God wins. God has already won. But that doesn't mean that we're just here to la-di-da, know that we are saved, and then wait for our reward in the next life. That's lazy. God puts you on this earth, in this country, in this time, in this moment for a reason. Okay? You're not just here to bide your time to count the hours until you are united with Him. Why are you here then? Why are you here? If godless communists take over, if they continue to take over all of the institutions, all of the seats of power, all of the branches of government, well, then it's going to be much harder for us to spread the gospel, to say the name of Christ. It will be much harder, needlessly harder. I'm not saying that Christians should shy away from something hard, but we're making it needlessly hard. We are asleep. We need to wake up. Politics is not a dirty word. Winning elections is not a dirty word. Compromising sometimes in a political campaign in order to win an election is not a dirty thing. That is different than compromising in your daily life, in your walk with Christ. That is different. The godless communists took over inch by inch by inch. They didn't take over the schools, the college campuses, Hollywood. They didn't take over all these things overnight, right? We didn't get to a place where we're really genuinely arguing about whether a man can get pregnant overnight. They took it over inch by inch by inch, and that is the way we're going to win our country back, but not if Christians sit on the sidelines. Not if Christians continue to be asleep. Because understand that if we don't vote, America will fall. Because the only other alternative to voting is civil conflict, which is not something that Christians want to see, which is not something that any of us want to see, which is not something that any of us should take lightly. But understand that if we're talking about actually continuing the great American experiment, actually continuing to be a Christian based, liberty loving, God fearing nation, or reversing course and trying to get back to those roots, we've got voting and we've got civil conflict. Those are the only two ways to affect change. So if you're eschewing voting, understand what you are leading us towards. Understand that you're playing with fire. Christians should be involved. You don't have to get down in the mud and sling mud or any of that. But you do have to be involved in the governing of the body of people because it is good for us, it is good for God when good God fearing men are in power. And I know that none of us really look around and see necessarily the Christian candidates that we would like to see. I get that. But again, we're not going to take back our country overnight because our country wasn't taken from us overnight. So Christians need to vote. Christians need to vote early. Everyone needs to be voting early. Get out there and vote. Get out there and be involved. If your pastor is saying anything about like separation of church and state, because that is completely, the meaning of that has been twisted over the years. If your pastor is saying anything about how you shouldn't be involved, how we're above anything, get a new church, okay? Because that is not the way. We can rest easy knowing that God has already won, but we still have work to do here. And America existing leads more people to Christ. This is very important. And it's not something to sit back and be lazy and be self righteous and be holier than thou. You're not holier than voting, okay? So go vote.